powered by Omen and HyperX. Already, we do have the majority of the bans coming through. The Zac, probably the most curious one here by GENG.
Early priority on the Cassante for Keen. We do know that it is a high priority champion for him, but you've got to remember that both Oscar and Keen love to prioritize the champion. The question is, where in the draft will it be prioritized? Because you imagine with Kalista and Varus both up, they're going to be the prior lock-ins here.
100% going to be picked here is that Kalista. Kind of a no-brainer, even though Paze isn't necessarily the guy you think of first. He has actually been able to play these aggressive lanes depending on Lahenza's matchup. Lahenza has already been freestyling a little bit with support. We saw the Annie. And I love the Nautilus ban. I genuinely think that Lahenza's Nautilus is one of the big things that enables GENG to really have Lahenza have the impact on the map. However, double archery bot lane should come as no surprise, given that Ashe is both really strong into Kalista. Although, with lane swaps, I feel like we have seen a little bit more counterplay come up to this double Halo Blades bot lane.
Not to mention the fact that that Rumble could be going into Lahenza's hands, and if Rumble gets his hands on an Ashe in the early levels, the Ashe just kind of dies. So that might be a game plan that they're going for, but I have a feeling that the good old lane swap scenario is something that they're going to be looking out for. Of course, GENG, there was a recent interview by Ashley Kang with Canyon, and he's like, yeah, this is a thing that has to happen now, and we'll see how they're going to do alongside it.
The Sejuani lock in here for Canyon. I'm curious as to whether or not Fnatic want to prioritize their mid laner here. With Azir still up and available, it could be something Humanoid wants to lock in, maybe even the Talia, if they want a little bit more lockdown potentially for Paze on the Kalista. Talia and Vi, well, Vi taken off the board, of course, but the Talia going to be locked in for Humanoid means that bot lane is definitely going to be the focus. That was clear from the drafts. If we don't actually see any lane swaps, Fnatic's game plan here is going to be to try and look for those early dives and attack bot lane as soon as they can.
And I love the Talia. I think it also forces a Poppy ban out of GENG, because we have seen Razork play that a decent amount, and the Poppy, especially if you add it with the Talia, Kalista basically can't play. Even if you go, and we've seen that as a response for the lethality Kalista, it still is really hard to pilot that mid to late game. Xin Zhao already also kind of a no-brainer. It is really able to put the pressure on this Sejuani, as a lot of these control mages gonna get taken away. Yeah, Chovy ends up going toward.
Does suggest Fnatic's trying to push Chovy more towards something like the Azir. I guess Humanoid feels that he can have a little bit more control over the lane, having that early pressure into the matchup, but we'll see what Chovy chooses to go for. We know how deep his champion pool can be. As we imagine now, jungle pool continues to be pinched. You already highlighted the Poppy, one of Razork's favorite and most successful champions throughout his career, something that he's more than happy to lock in if it's available. It is up and available. The question is, do Fnatic want to prioritize it, or instead are they interested in something a little bit more early game focused? You can see them hovering through a number of options. So we'll see what direction Razork wants to go. Looking like Oscar is going to be able to get that counter pick against Keen in the top lane.
Does mean Keen probably, even though it's not going to be very interesting, is looking towards that Cassante. As it is, they did actually think about the Poppy, it's going to be the Wukong instead, so even more ways to post-6 reliably lock down that backline and make it really, really hard for the GENG bot lane, which again, I expect it to be the Rumble and Kalista, but we'll see what direction GENG is going to go in with the final two picks here.
As far as I'm aware, as far as my memory, assuming it's correct, this is his first Wukong game of the year for Razork. Like, this is not a champion.
Wukong hasn't necessarily been top of the meta so far this year.
But it's definitely not a champion you typically associate with him. Very excited to see him pilot the champion. And speaking of pilots, we're going to get to see Chovy's Corki, one of his most terrifying champions, I would say.
It's like terrifying, but it's in a slow and inevitable kind of way. It's not like the most exciting kind of terrifying, but it certainly does tick the same boxes. There's the Cassante that we were talking about earlier on as well, which will confirm that Rumble towards the bottom side of the map. Pretty stock standard GENG composition here. Something that was popularized by DRX kind of many years ago, the Kalista Corki.
Yeah, really not seeing anything out of the ordinary here for GENG. I think, as you pointed out, actually the most...
he's bringing it back!
Nice, he's doing it.
Into Keen as well, damn!
The confidence, we saw him doing this throughout the play-in stage. I was wondering whether it was going to come back today, but look at this top side from Fnatic. This type of composition is uncharacteristic for them. Carries across the board, multiple damage threats, all with the sole purpose of killing Paze. That lockdown potentially for Chovy as well. GENG, their bot lane is going to be tested, and coming into today's series, I thought that the best way to beat GENG is to attack this bot lane, and Fnatic seems to have come in with that game plan.
I really like it. I think it's a good call here from Fnatic. FaZe and Lehens definitely have struggled the most. And when you look at the champions, Cassante, Sejuani, and Corki, you're not really going to be that afraid, at least on paper. We have seen enough GENG games to know that it can be a little bit deceptive. I think Corki's, or Chovy's Corki in lane in particular is something that not even things like Faker's Orianna could deal with in that game 5. So that definitely still has to be respected. We'll see how FaZe and Lehens are able to deal with the amount of backline dive that's there.
It does feel a little bit like a default pickup here for GENG.
Yeah.
Not necessarily testing too much, not trying out anything new here in game number 1. We'll see what they're going to be able to get done here as we get onto the Rift for game number 1 of this best of 5. The LCK first seed versus the LEC second. GENG taking on Fnatic. I actually think these compositions are kind of perfect for what we wanted to see out of both of these squads. I think that GENG not necessarily needing to show too much moving into game number 1, but Fnatic looking like they have a lot of aggression and a lot of comfort here as well with what's been working recently, outside, I guess, of the monkey in the works that's been thrown into the jungle. But we know that it can go very well into the Sejuani.
I'm excited because this is what I wanted to see from Fnatic. When you think about the traditional standard macro high-level pro game, you're always going to give that advantage to GENG. They are considered one of, if not the smartest team in the world. Their lane assignments, especially past 5 minutes, are incredibly difficult to manage. And I think that Fnatic trying to match them in that style, trying to just go in terms of scaling team fighting, was never going to be their approach. And that's not what they've done. Side lanes, looking to find 2v2s, looking to attack you in 1v1s or 1v2s or 1v3s and trying to catch on the map, trying to pressure this bot side as well. Fnatic's game plan is about aggression, skirmishing, and catering to the style that they found success with this year, which is kind of getting into the mud and getting down and dirty.
It really does kind of counteract what GENG is necessarily known for. They can certainly skirmish, but they're not necessarily known for it. As Lehens has found himself a Camille. See whether he's going to find some harpoons in anybody else, but as we know, there is no one else in the area, as Oscarinen is just going to be heading towards the bottom side of the map as the lane swap has been found out. And GENG, the ones to instigate it here. Not surprising, given the lane matchups.
To see there as well, Oscar actually was waiting, leveling his E. Did actually end up going it here. So it does have a lot of threat, but because there's an award, not going to find anything as of right now. In terms of summoners, June actually going for the Ghost here as well, which, with Ashe in particular, the extra movement speed in the longer trades can be extremely beneficial. Thus far, we do see Oscar now also heading towards the bottom half of the map, whereas Keen is still just shadowing Canyon. Canyon should be looking to cover here. Oscar, again, does have his E.
Keep your eyes on Razork as well. He's doing Raptors into red, looking to get a quick level 3, but by pushing in this wave, Keen is going to get a lot of benefit. The fact that Canyon is also shadowing means that it's safe for Oscar to TP towards the top side of the map because the risk of a dive is now significantly lower, which means that he's not going to lose too much, but losing that TP could be detrimental depending on what GENG choose to do here. Are they going to threaten a dive?
With Canyon not in the area, it does seem like it's a bit dangerous, as casual turret shot going to be taken there by Lehens. Very Lehens move. Does very much like to be a little bit aggressive. And it looks like Razork has had a little bit of a better time in the jungle as well, just kept up the farm, whereas Canyon did take a bit of a timeout to make sure that Keen was going to be okay.
I do think that's one of the things that if we had gone for the Poppy, then it completely changes how he can play these early lanes, right? Then maybe you do actually try and still
That's a Valkyrie from Chovy here, as Humanoid getting taken below 100 health, has to flash in the end, and is going to be teleporting back to lane without either of his summoner spells in the end.
He has to flash. If he doesn't flash and Chovy ends up flashing, he goes down, so has to go for it preemptively, but that is extreme enough. And we're talking about is the early laning phase of Chovy on this Corki, something that many LCK mids have really struggled with, as we now have the back coming through here from Lehens and FaZe, and they will be heading towards this bottom half of the map, where Noah and Jun still waiting, shoving in that wave.
I have to imagine Canyon now gets drawn towards that mid lane as well. Level 6 comes through, and that's looking like prime real estate for a nice gank in mid lane. Humanoid going to have to show that respect. He was so close to getting level 4, could have made all the difference in terms of protecting his flash, but now we return to standard lane assignments. Keen going to get level 4. as we see the return of Pays and Lehens, avoiding those early levels where this Ash virus can be so lethal, while also putting this Camille a little bit behind in terms of that early golden experience.
It's really nicely done because, as you point out, Vedi, the amount of lanes that I've seen won by Ash virus level 1 over the last, what, year and a half has been absolutely insane. Kenyan is going to pay a visit towards the bot side of the map. They are going forward because Razork is on his way.
Yep, there is already that ghost popped by Jun. Razork's going to turn up. Not a lot of information there. The flash forward from Lehens, but already that's first blood going over to Pays. Razork just a little bit too late on it. As now Canyon down to 50%, but I think they should be able to get out. Man advantage, 3 versus 2, not something that Fnatic want to mess with.
And the miss time there from Fnatic, you have to be ready as Keen.
That was so sexy from Keen. It's Oscarinen going to have to flash his way out of there, and Genji picking up these incremental advantages already.
You're already starting to feel the pressure just from Genji's lane as a flash lost in mid, a flash lost in top. Fnatic thought that they could fight in bot lane, but they get punished by Canyon, making the play happen that much faster than Razork is able to. And you can already see a level difference being built in the jungle as well.
And they knew, right? And I think that the power of this Varus and Ashe is great as long as they don't actually get on top of you, particularly when you have a Rumble with Ignite as well. The moment that you are actually there on top of it, even with Flash, like they can close that gap very, very easily. Canyon didn't even have to invest his own summoner because of how far Noah and June were up, and I think they could have just backed out of that. Like, pre-6, I don't think you even want to take the 3v3. Like, you're sitting with a Wukong, first the amount of burst that you have with specifically that Sejuani Rumble.
Some more value here from Chovy as he finds a combo onto Humanoid, but Humanoid's able to offer a fair bit back as well, throwing those rocks onto the ground. The thing that really does work out in Genji's favor also is the fact that Lehens now gets himself that little bit of acceleration. Rumble, we know, is so deadly in these early levels. It's why he was so happy to go for that flash play immediately. Just understands that the acceleration is going to be so beneficial as Canyon takes himself a grub. And Razork also going to have to contend with 3 members of Genji in this area if he wants to contest, which he's not going to, intelligent.
I mean, just great play overall from Genji. They utilize the pressure that they have in mid to, as Keen resets onto the map with Lehens also covering, they're able to secure the first rotation of grubs. It's going to be challenging for Fnatic to be able to cross map with Razork actually on the top side. He was just pinged out by Genji, question mark thrown towards the Krugs. So it seems like they're doing a good job of keeping track of where Razork is, which is crucial when it comes to Fnatic's early game, because they largely do live or die by Razork's success and pressure in finding advantages, but so far, Fnatic have not been able to find any.
And one of the big things with Taliyah is that post-6, you want to try and actually impact the map, maybe make a play towards the bot side, especially with how much Pays and Lance have been pushing. But because of that early flash force, Humanoid has to play so much more respectful already. And Canyon didn't even have his level 6 yet, but as soon as that Glacial Prison is available, he needs to be so respectful, and Canyon might be looking for an angle here.
Yeah, the flash not quite up and available. There he is! He finds the ulti, the Valkyrie forward, and it's all too easy. Chovy even turning around a little bit early, has to go back to make sure that he locks down the second kill for Genji.
I mean, we talked about it. The moment that Humanoid's flash was burned, we literally said the moment Canyon gets level 6, he has his eyes on mid and he makes the gang look flawless. 2 kills in favor of Genji. They have a 1k gold lead already, and Chovy off to a fantastic start.
We do see here towards the top side, Oscarinen, even with the early flash first, hasn't really been a lot more attention towards that top side. Camille also notoriously hard to lock down. Razork, the winner, has now hit 6, and I think that an early skirmish with this Wukong is going to be pivotal for Fnatic to prevent Genji from snowballing, because if you go into a mid-game with Genji already having a lead, it is so oppressive, because usually they don't really start building large leads until they get to the mid-games, Canyon.
It goes in once again. Good seismic shove here from Humanoid, as he does get permafrosted, but not going to be too worried about it. And this Drake should go over to Fnatic with that bot lane priority. They did manage to grab it themselves. So, a neutral objective on the bottom side going the LEC's way. Definitely a good start, as Arrow is going to be fired from base. I remember this one from Season 1. And it's not going to land onto Chovy, but it was relatively close. I like it.
Close.
He was just missing the teleport. That's what you used to have to do. Yeah. After you built your Thornmail, of course.
Nerves of steel there from Chovy. He always finds himself just a slight level up. I mean, we saw it in the early exchange where Humanoid was forced back, but every single time we move towards mid lane, there's always that experience differential, and obviously thanks to the kill, he's now ballooned it even more, holding almost a full level over Humanoid.
I think he has like some forbidden tech where he finds minions on the map that shouldn't actually exist. We're still trying to figure out what it is.
I actually forgot. I think it was an interview with someone who like did some VOD reviews. Like, how does Chovy get this much creeps? And the answer was very easy because he just doesn't miss any. Like, he just hits every, which is like
just get them all.
Just get them all, which is it's very easy to see, but not very easy to replicate, unfortunately. Big thing though is that some of the gold lead that is there for GENG is currently sitting on pace, is going for lethality, so it does have a lot more effective range to play with, but still, I want to see how Fnatic is going to be able to isolate targets, because while I do think that, again, their backline dive is incredible, they have a really high amount of damage, just killing, say, Pays isn't really going to be enough, especially with Lahens or also on the Rumble, level 6 now available, and Chovy building up this big a lead this early on the core key. Have to be able to deal with multiple threats when we get to maybe a fight, possibly around the second round of grubs.
It's a very polite way of saying it's not looking good for Fnatic right now.
I'm always polite, Betty. Come on, you got to look at the bright side of things.
It's very true. It's not looking great.
Oh, there's a chance of corruption here towards the bottom side. It is going to be answered with a Fates called it already. Lahens down incredibly low. Equalizer just thrown out to stop them from going too far forward, but Pays is the one flashing away. Harpoon going to connect, second one going to land there as well. There's the flash forward from Noah, but not quite enough damage. And GENG will be able to make the great escape. Oh, will they, as Humanoid comes down. Lens trying to burn him, but it's not going to work. Seismic shot lands. It's a double kill for the Talia. And now Chovy will punish him, but he gives him the thumbs up. He'll take that trade.
Very nice aggression from Fnatic. Started by the bot lane of Noah and Jern. They're able to punish Pays and Lahens for their aggression, thinking that with the Rumble ultimate they would actually have enough damage, but in the extended trade, the Ashvaris ends up coming out on top. Nice throw from Humanoid, but a good response from Chovy as Canyon sets his eyes on top.
Yeah, Keen still tanking up the turret here, so not exactly an optimal play, but Canyon's going to turn up as well. Oh, there's the Glacial Prison. Hextech Ultimatum does come down. He gets the shield as well as Keen. Trying to land it. Canyon was tanking up the turret, but the hook shot is going to be there, and Oscar makes his way out.
Camille is so insanely slippery with flash, with ultimate. You can dodge so much damage, and even with Canyon hitting the Glacial Prison at the beginning there isn't quite enough to actually get the kill.
Ooh, good arrow there from Noah, but does take a pierce in exchange. Exactly. We've got Jun making his way down, looking for that angle. Not going to quite throw it just yet, as this turret is not long for the world.
Yeah, that's the big thing. The gang, even though they don't get Oscar in, still super successful. Keen is able to further extend his lead. Turret, I think, will drop there on the means. Might just barely be alive, but a stiff breeze will make sure that that isn't going to be the case.
I mean, it's one of the terrifying things about Canyon, his ability to find these cross maps. If we go back into the 2 versus 2 initiated by Fnatic, once you saw Pays with the ultimate, you think this is a great turnaround, but a good Ashe ultimate from Jun gets Lahens incredibly low, and then the extended trade means that Fnatic can start the chase back. We're back to life.
Lahens, what are we doing there? Cyclone's going to come on through, and he is really dead. We're going to have to get a little bit of an update on the tape, like what was he there for? Still a great move here from Fnatic.
Yeah, not the first time we've seen that from Lahens. Him and Pays have been definitely the weak spot on GENG, and I gotta credit Fnatic for actually having both the outplay in the 2v2 and then Razork also paying a lot of attention towards that bot side of the map, as it was the arrow from Jun who found Lahens. Flashless there, of course. That equalizer that we saw in the replay as well is not gonna fill Huni with a lot of joy. If you're wondering, that's how we in the LCK rate any Rumble performance.
we might be able to we might be able to send him a little bit of a message after this game, see whether we can get an update on Lahens.
I don't think he's gonna be
Rumble. I imagine probably not quite the level of Carrier's support Rumble, which did have the highest score in the LCK at the end of last season.
Compared to top Rumbles too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Impressive stuff.
And Huni doesn't pull any punches either when it comes to
I'm
Rumble.
very aware.
He really doesn't.
There are some Swifty boots as well, so it's doomed. Noah's going to take a lot of damage from Chovy. And this is where I think the problem still lies, right? Because this bottom lane from GENG, I don't think that's going to be the focal point in this game. I think there's a certain guy in a plane that is going to be the problem.
Oscar doesn't have to teleport just yet, I think. There is available for Keen, so there is a small window here where GENG might be able to force a fight.
Yeah, Weaver's Wall is going to come on through. That is the Drake secured, as now Chovy looking for some rockets, but Humanoid will thread some volleys through. Good seismic shove to play defensively here, as it's a Hex Tech sold this game as well. That's pretty high octane. Still 2,000 gold the lead for GENG, but these Dragons are stacking.
Really, really good wall there from Humanoid, actually blocking off GENG unless they really want to invest heavily in terms of cooldowns.
I mean, Humanoid, he put the Weaver's Wall down onto Chovy. He also used the ultimate, and he got the knockback onto Canyon. So great highlight there, Chronicler, because Humanoid providing a lot of defense. But again, you kind of look at the map state.
That's yeah.
GENG just continue to put pressure down everywhere. We kind of go back to that top lane. Remember that Canyon was able to secure the 6 scrubs, which contributed to Keen being able to secure that top tower. Chovy's now moved into bot lane. He's chipping away at this tower, and even though Fnatic is showing promise, we're seeing a similar situation to what we often see in LEC versus LCK, which is that, okay, they're finding picks, they're finding kills, they're finding small objectives, but you look at the top of your screen, and somehow it's a 2.5k gold difference, and it's just through the way in which this team is playing through the map.
Oh dear, that's a flash over the wall from Lens, and I don't even think he needed Chovy there, but Chovy will very happily pick up a killing spree.
Nicely done. GENG find themselves another kill, and it's in Chovy's hands. The scariest person on GENG to be accruing all of these kills. 1.4k the goal difference between the two solo laners, both in top and mid.
Another big thing is we talk a lot about the offensive power that Fnatic's comp has, and that is still true. But the inverse, GENG's front line is so strong. Like Sejuani and Cassante is an incredible amount of safety, and we haven't actually seen Keen join in any single fight. In the 5v5s, that's why I really worry about Fnatic, because if you don't get a great flank angle from either Oscar or Razor onto the enemy backline from the get-go, trying to just play front to back into this GENG comp, and GENG in general, but specifically when they have this type of double frontline comp, is going to be really, really tough.
And Keen has been by far our best team fighting Cassante in the LCK this season as well. So very scary to go up against. See whether Fnatic can navigate it though, because there certainly are some 5v5 options, definitely some wombo combos that they can look towards as well. Some early picks in team fights could be the way through. As this Rift Herald going to be taken, and Canyon can feel free to put that one down whenever he would like. Already that top lane outer turret did fall down earlier on. Chovy up here to grab some red dots as they march their way up the lane.
There's 4 people there, Chovy.
Entire top side has just been in GENG's control pretty much from start to finish, starting with the lane swap, then just constantly applying that top side pressure. That's where a lot of the gold lead is currently sitting, and when we think back to GENG throughout the first half of this year, kind of has been that top side that has been standout. We've seen Chovy, even in dire situations, put the team on his back and have strong performances, but I don't think he's going to need to do that with Canyon and Keen by his side in this game.
And it does feel like the Corki for GENG is often their cheat code for that.
Oh yeah.
Because of just the amount of mid to late game power the Corki has by himself in navigating setups around these objectives. Something that Chovy has been very, very good at. We haven't even necessarily seen a big package play just yet, which might be coming up in a minute and a half as this Drake is going to be making its way under the rift.
And this is going to be a breaking point, because we're going to get to the point in the game where if you end up going down in, like, say, a 3 or 4 for 1-2, you're going to lose a lot of objectives, because the Herald does get dropped down. GENG looking for more map control by taking down his mid lane turret.
Yeah, no one's going to be riding it this time around. We've had some Herald mishaps in the LCKs. Weaver's Wall does come on through, but it's only Shelly that is going to bear the brunt of it. She will be taken down. So no breaking of the mid-outer turret just yet, but GENG with control of the river.
Exactly, Atlas. That's what they were mainly aiming for. They've done damage to that mid tower, and it's basically just a hair's breadth away from being knocked over. So they've set up the building blocks that they need. The vision now being swept out. Any potential deep flank wards are what GENG are a little concerned about. We already talked about the dive threat, and Chronicler, you are highlighting how Fnatic is going to be looking for that backline access, and those deep wards are going to be crucial to that, with which GENG is completely denying. Now, Humanoid in some danger.
Once again, a Valkyrie forward as the arrow is going to connect onto Chovy. They're now trying to turn it around. Canyon here, but maybe he's a bit too late as Chovy holding onto the flash, and he decides he's not going to use it. Now Razor with the Cyclone. Noah is just going to be jumped on by the Sejuani, but he says thank you very much and picks up the kill.
And it's 30 seconds until the Hextech Soul Point is available for Fnatic. GENG just not expecting this many people to be ready, and honestly, if you're playing as Fnatic, I feel like you have to be.
I mean, a great punish from Fnatic. I saw what Chovy saw, which is this is a free kill.
Yeah.
Humanoid sitting isolated in a side lane, but he didn't respect the Ash Arrow from Jun. The biggest downside is that Jun got the shutdown onto Chovy, but overall, Fnatic with 2 picks and full control over the Dragon, they're going to be happy with that.
Yeah, mid lane control does go to GENG here for now as
Oh,
Oscarinen off to the side. Razork just burning down though, and there is no support. Paze is going to cleanse, finds the auto in the end as the equalizer's coming down as well. And it looks like the Drake will go over to GENG. Canyon even turning up in time.
Oh, Fnatic, you had the opportunity to set up Soul Point,
I
but
felt
you,
like
you
that
don't need
was-
your jungler!
And now Chovy going to grab the outer turret in mid lane as well. From bad to worse here for Fnatic in what we thought might have been their opportunity.
Because the big thing is, if they use the kill onto Chovy, even if he TP's back and Canyon can't be there instantly, you can just take control of the river and play it slow.
The biggest problem was that they used so much to actually get these 2 kills. We look back at it, and this collapse from Chovy, again, looks promising, but now he has nothing to be able to dodge away from the Ash Arrow. Humanoid and Jun have good damage. The TP was committed as well. So now Fnatic are all inning on this play, and the Dragon is still 20 seconds away. So even though, look, Flash committed from Razork, ultimates used, and now Fnatic have nothing left to actually secure the Dragon, which means that when GENG get control of the mid and re-enter, they're able to punish.
Well, now having a look at the dust settling, it is not a massive advantage here for GENG as we press the 20-minute mark, as now Hextech Ultimatum down onto Keen. Flash out from Oscarinen though. He wants nothing to do with this ghosting Cassante with his 2 items already completed. That item lead actually looks like it's, like, why does that exist? And I think the 1.5k is probably there, but man, Keen's kind of huge.
Yeah, Keen has been able to pick up, thanks to even like ganks didn't work out, like Canyon trying to play towards the top side.
I think
right?
it's crockery money, right? It's just plates.
It's been a whole lot of plates, and I think he got the first turret blood, and then I think he got another turret towards the bot side of the map. And Camille is insane if she can get her items, but if you start falling behind, that point takes so long to get to. As Noah does have Edge of Night, with some added safety, but him and Jun are very mobile, very squishy.
Double flashes available here for the Fnatic bottom lane, so maybe not a kill opportunity for GENG. Wanting to get a few of those summoner spells if they can. Not wanting to dive this inner turret, as we can see, in Canyon going to be spotted out by the Hawkshot. Heads up play there from Jun. GENG just back to clearing out this mid wave. Baron up on the map. It's another thing that we're going to have to keep our eyes on, and the next team fight might really be a big turning point in this game. You know what? Clears up that wave as well. Still has absolute parity alongside Paze here as both of these lethality 80 carries looking to try and get that poke damage done as this game goes on.
I'm really interested in how these fights actually play out, because you mentioned it earlier, but the goal difference isn't that dramatic. We look at the bottom of our screens, we can see very similar itemization, really only Oscar who needs to secure that Ravenous Hydra, but once he gets it, Fnatic have ways to win fights. They've got the backline threats, they can lock down Chovy, and if you can get rid of Chovy, Paze going for this lethality build, like, is effective against squishies, but I feel like Fnatic have ways in which they can win the fight depending on how they're able to execute. The problem they're having right now is map control. When we just kind of look at the minimap, it is a very GENG favored map. They are suffocating the vision out from Fnatic, and they're very reliant on Jun, looking for picks and relying on his arrows to get information. But I think
Ward giving a lot of information, actually.
If Fnatic can find the angle, I believe that there are ways in which they can win fights. It's a question of whether GENG will even give it to them.
I do like the non-committal CC. You know, the fact that Jun is just throwing out these arrows just to see whether one of them sticks. It's exactly what he needs to keep on doing, because opportunistic picks for this composition work out so well. If you can then make that man advantage happen, even the Camille gets so much more powerful in those moments. And Oscar, I think, will be a big win condition as this game goes on. I don't know whether anyone's matching a Camille in a side lane if this game goes the distance.
Also depends, though, on whether or not we can see.
Oh, Weaver's Wall coming in as Humanoid throws down the rocks onto Keen, or at least I think he did. Keen does eventually take some damage as the big rock does come on down, absorbs the CC there. Keen able to walk this one off. Canyon pretty tanky himself, and Humanoid still looking for even more. Threaded volley after threaded volley being thrown into the back of the head of this Cassante. He's now looking for a reset.
I didn't love the wall from Humanoid just because he ended up cutting his own teammates off as well as GENG, but they are able to use that play to gain control over the bot river. The thing that GENG should be thinking about is taking a page out of T1's book and looking at that Baron.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
like they have full control over the top side of the map. Their Baron is very fast with the Corki. And Fnatic, while they have a nice setup for the Dragon, GENG could just choose to concede it and exchange it for a Baron, and with their Siege, I think that would be a scary thing for them to have.
Keen's on a pretty nice flank angle here. The equalizer's brilliant as well, and he finds two with the shove forward. Canyon's going to take down Jun to start this one off, and Humanoid is just thrown into the blender. Noah follows, and this is just a wash. GENG, they will clean up the fight, look for the Drake, and maybe more.
As it turns out, all GENG needed was Keen to just be there. Gets on top of the enemy backline.
Wanders in casually from the side.
Got the cancel. I think Noah flashed after Keen had already used his ultimate, so he actually got pulled back as well. But right from the get-go, the amount of burst that came through, I think it was from Lahens and Chovy together, ends up toasting, look, most of this front line right from the get-go. Humanoid takes a ton of damage, and Keen is gone for full items. Humanoid can't damage this Cassante at all, so he just doesn't take any damage.
Just a really great demonstration of how to play that traditional front to back. The Baron is available. Razork gonna look for a steal.
Yeah, they do manage to get the ward over as Hex Gates are being taken. There's an arrow in there. He's in the pit. It goes down solo and it's secured by the Rend. GENG take down the Monkey as well. And they'll secure themselves a Baron. Oscar in, and he is going to be dessert here for GENG, as there's nothing he can do by himself. Chovy grabs another one.
And not the cleanest there from GENG, but they end up making it work. Tried to keep the Wukong out of the pit. Weren't successful, but it's Pays in the end that ends up getting it with the Rend. Not as strong as Kalista once was at securing objectives, but will be enough. And that fell, those two sequences of play, like now Fnatic have completely lost control.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. Fnatic, it's a matter of desperation here. The fact that Razork gets into the pit is the scariest part for GENG. Oh, 125. I mean, even 34, it gets incredibly low. But
that was not a Rend secure. I did say that. It was not a Rend secure, guys. I think it does more damage than that despite the nerf.
But ultimately, GENG walk away with the Baron. They have nothing to be concerned about, and huge credit to Keen. He set up the fight for GENG. He helped secure it for the team after finding a great team fight, and now it's just a matter of time as GENG begin their siege onto Fnatic's base.
He is a player that has been part of some of the LCK's darkest days.
Yeah.
So seeing him do well in LCK Finals already was great, and now Fnatic just desperately looking for any pick, but like between the 6 grubs, the 2 Hextech Drakes, and the Baron, these turrets are going to fall.
Oh dear, Humanoid, he's going to be put into the prison, and Chovy finds the rocket. And that might just be it, as Razork with the Cyclone able to get over there with the decoy as well. But I just don't know whether it's going to be enough. The base is about to be broken open with the man advantage. GENG should be able to get more than one inhibitor. In fact, this top inhibitor turret goes down in a blink of an eye, as does Razork. There was a Wukong there, I'm pretty sure, but he just disappears. And now Nexus turret's in the eyes of GENG. We're cresting the 27-minute mark, and I don't know whether the game has much more in it than that.
A single fight was all it took, and they're looking for another.
Yeah, there's the all-out from Keen. He might just be taken down here. A couple of turrets might be too much for him. Never mind.
Oh,
he's just able to walk it off. Pays is the one that dies, but the Nexus is going to follow suit, and the LCK's #1 seed will take game 1.
Bit of a bumpy ride, I think. Fnatic getting punished at times, or rather, GENG getting punished at times by Fnatic willingness to throw everything at specifically the bot lane in the initial play, and then Chovy in the layup towards the Dragon, but not getting that Hextech soul point, I think is going to be the main point, where they're going to look and go like, if we could have gone that, maybe we could have played out the Baron situation different as well.
I mean, I think the frustrating thing on Fnatic's part is they never got the fight that they were looking for.
Yeah.
We never got to see them really control vision, set up for flanks, and really attack the backline and have the fights go on their terms. But GENG, their topside control was immaculate from start to finish, and this Camille never got off the ground. So huge credit to GENG, because even if their bot lane was faltering, it was overall a very clean topside and a well-executed game from GENG.
Yep, and make sure, guys, don't forget to log in to lolesports.com using your Riot ID to earn exclusive MSI